pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to the Vlog-A-Thon 4.0. And now here on the Vlog-A-Thon 4.0, here comes some more topics of mine that I'm pretty much just going to have to talk about at some point, sooner or later. And what I'm going to be doing today, for this portion of the Vlog-A-Thon 4.0, is just this. My Instagram account has pretty much been not as good of a run as my Twitter has been. Of course, my Instagram has been around since my 15th birthday, June 2014, and since then, there have been some in and out kind of situations with it, and there have also been some successes that have been found within it, and there's also been some viewership that I've been able to gain. But, of course, unlike the Twitter game, where I've been going along, chiming in with the gay tweet community, Instagram doesn't really have anything like that. That's kind of where my luck seems to run down pretty badly. Of course, my follower count, it may be dropping down a bit, but you know what? There's always a likelihood that I will be able to pull myself back up and reach the top yet again. But in spite of, well, the follower count and the following count that I happen to have on the platform in general, the amount of posts that I've been given to it were pretty big, actually. And it's no doubt because of the many trips that I've been having lately, especially with the 3 big ones that I've had this whole year alone. In February and March 2020, there of course was my super big trip to the state of Carolina, where I visited the Eastern Carolina Union College campus, which is basically where my younger sibling Luke is going to be going down to next summer. And then, of course, in July 2020 was when I headed on down to Indianapolis and Carmel, Indiana. And that was kind of more of a road trip. But then, of course, there came the October trip to Fort Myers Beach, as well as Fort Lauderdale, Jupiter, Tampa Bay, and otherwise. It's also the reason why I still have all this stuff on. Both this long sleeve and this sweater rightfully came straight out of that beach. And so, that just goes to show there really is a lot to look for when it comes to a certain trip. But anyways, aside from the trips I've had that pretty much fueled up the skyrocketing number of posts that I was able to deliver to my Instagram page, I will say that the growth spurt that I've been able to give to it hasn't really aged too well. I mean, I've done whatever I could to basically amp up my follower count, which is basically a big part of, well, being on social media in general. The bigger the count is, the more confidence you seem to have in life, and even better, I feel like my esteem and my overall feelings about the internet as a whole have really been flourishing. I'm still grateful to know that I still have followers rather than nothing at all, but Instagram and Twitter, they weren't necessarily as gigantic as they used to be. I mean, Twitter, of course, really gave me about 30,000 total followers as a whole, across both accounts, of course. Then, we can never forget the time that my first one had gone through such a bad time. And then, of course, just had to pull the plug on it when it was only 13 years old. Well, I can never get over something as insane as something like that. But I will say for sure that in all the times that have happened since I had to deactivate that first account of mine, my second one has not gone through any trouble with any of those corporate butthole surfers, really. So, I just don't really know how else to comment on that entire thing. I know it's been about a year since that whole entire thing happened, but how can I forgive people like them? I certainly cannot. They don't have to, well, do any of this stuff at all. I mean, if I've done nothing to them, they clearly don't have to do nothing to me. I violated nothing of their rules. None of their rules in general. And I feel like I'm going through sensory deprivation right now because I'm just so traumatized and pissed about the whole thing in general. I had to lose a gigantic following of mine just so I can keep going on Twitter. A gigantic following of mine on one account that eventually ended up giving me another account to which then my following has not come back to me. No one. Other than the fact that, well, there's not even 1,200 followers on there to begin with, but man, I'm getting off track here at this point. So Instagram as a whole, the growth spurt I can't really say much about because I don't see too many reasons for it. But I will say that the amount of posts I've been able to get onto that account have really allowed a lot of things to happen. I've gotten lots of comments on them, tons of likes, plenty of shares, which is at least good in and of itself. So of course, that's pretty much just all I have left to talk about my Instagram until anything else pretty much turns up. But until then, if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.